Hey guys, it's me, Rich. What if 4 completely different news stories were actually telling you the same thing about where America is headed next? Today, we're going to look at California politicians trying to influence the routes you drive, a major immigration case heading to the Supreme Court, Kamala Harris discussing changes to America's political institutions, and Donald Trump receiving nearly $70 billion to carry out one of his biggest campaign promises. At first glance, these stories seem unrelated, but when you put them together, a much bigger picture starts to emerge. And by the end of this video, you may see these stories very differently. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to RPW Media, where we are MAGA first, conservative second, and Republican third, with the goal of bringing you the most honest news coverage of the day. Look, if you're new, like, subscribe, and comment, and thank you. So, story number 1. California wants to influence your GPS. California lawmakers are considering a proposal called AB 2015. Under the proposal, local governments could designate certain roads as slow streets, and navigation apps like Google Maps and Apple Maps could potentially route drivers around them. Supporters say the goal is simple: more walking, more biking, less traffic. Critics say that's not really the issue. All right, so California State Representative Carl DeMaio, he blasted the proposal. Give this a watch.
California State Assembly member Carl DeMaio here with yet another bad bill alert in the state capitol. The politicians want to pass a bill. I can't even believe that they're trying to do this, to regulate and manipulate Apple Maps, Google Maps, or whatever software you use to plot out your commute. What business is it of government what route you take? Well, a lot of them are saying that they need to protect the environment. What it means is that your commute's going to take longer. Literally, they're going to probably tell your map software, well, make sure we fight climate change, so let's add 30 minutes to the commute.
Guys, could this be one of those progressive nudges that we always hear about? Like, they're going to say, okay, so we want to stop people from driving cars because we just don't like that. Because let's face it, I don't believe even half of the members of the California State Assembly believe climate change is a real thing, but they use it as a cudgel to get their way. So think about it. Could they be doing this to add 30 to 45 minutes to a 10-minute route so that you say, you know what, the hell with it, I'm just not going to drive. I'm going to take public transportation because it's a waste of my time and it's a waste of gas money. You think that might be it?
This is absurd. Let's let technology figure out where the congestion is and get us from point A to point B as fast as possible. It doesn't take manipulation by government. Government's only going to screw it up. So tell government, stay away from my commute, stay out of my map software. Let's not pass this bad bill. Contact your legislator.
Here we go.
All right, what does this bill actually do? It allows local cities and counties to notify navigation companies to avoid routing drivers through designated slow streets. So what are slow streets? Slow streets are areas where neighborhoods or residential streets that they want to prioritize walking and biking. So they can just designate these areas as walking areas, and then these navigation companies will no longer be able to route.
Do you think anybody in California actually voted for this?
Drivers through these streets.
Maybe some out there.
Now, obviously, that can add a lot of time to people's commutes. Here's another thing to worry about. This can lead to more rules. In the future, Democrats can tell these apps that they must prioritize certain routes to avoid high pollution zones. So this will completely control where you can and can't go. This is something that we do not want the government involved in.
I mean, guys, think about it. The bigger question is whether government should influence technology that was originally designed to serve users, not the government. Because if government can steer traffic to achieve environmental goals, what other goals might officials eventually decide are important enough to justify influencing technology? That's why people far outside California are paying attention, because everything starts in California and then the craziness just moves across the country. Unreal. All right, story number 2, the Supreme Court and immigration detention. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear a major immigration case involving criminal illegal immigrants facing deportation. One individual pleaded guilty to assault. Another was convicted of sexually abusing a child under the age of 11. The legal question isn't whether they committed crimes. The legal question isn't whether they can be deported. The issue is whether people can be held for long periods during deportation proceedings without receiving a bond hearing. A lower court ruled that extremely long detention without a hearing violates due process protections. Now, I don't know why illegal aliens have due process in this country. I don't get it for criminal charges. The Trump administration argues that federal law requires detention of certain criminal non-citizens while their cases are being processed. Now the Supreme Court will decide whether that constitutional line exists or not. And the decision could significantly impact future immigration enforcement. I mean, think about it this way, guys. There was no due process when they illegally snuck into the country, so there should not be due process on the way out. And people go, oh, come on, we give everybody due process. Why? Why? They came here illegally. They don't belong here. They are not U.S. citizens. So why do we give them due process protections? They should just be deported immediately. As soon as their deportation hearing rules that they should be deported, they should be on their way. What's going on here is you have these district judges that make national rulings. I mean, we've seen SCOTUS already scold them for doing that, but they're still doing it. So you have all these lawyers that are very pro-open borders that are arguing with the Trump administration. Well, now it's going to go up to the Supreme Court. And I don't know how they're going to rule, but if they rule the wrong way, it could cause all kinds of problems for our country. And then we come to story number 3, Kamala Harris and America's institutions. Former Vice President Kamala Harris is drawing criticism after discussing major institutional changes that she wants to see happen. This is a woman who just lost horrendously in a presidential election, and she won't go away. Among the ideas she referenced were expanding the Supreme Court. Now, why? Because the Democrats want the judicial system rigged in their favor. The Democrats don't like any system that isn't rigged for them. They want to put more members on the Supreme Court so that they never lose any case. Imagine 3 or 4 more Ketanji Brown Jacksons. Whoa. Also, she wants to grant statehood to Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. Now, Puerto Rico has tried a couple of times to become a state, and they never got the votes. Washington, D.C. becoming a state means that Kamala Harris never read the Constitution, because inside the Constitution, it defines a district. And that's what D.C. stands for, District of Columbia, okay? The founding fathers wisely wanted to create a district that had no loyalties to any states. And the reason why, because they wanted that district to be the place where all the members of Congress would go and do their thing, okay? They wouldn't have any biases in that district. So Kamala Harris wants to have at least 4 more senators that are Democrat and at least 2 more members of the House, which means they would also get 2 more electoral votes. That's what she wants. Now, Harris argued, we've got to neutralize this red state cheating. There is no red state cheating. What she's talking about, obviously, is how red states are redistricting right now. Now, a lot of people said, well, Virginia did their horrendous district redistricting because of what Texas did. Well, Texas actually legally did their redistricting because of what New York did. See, New York, like many other blue states, they went and virtue signaled a few years ago and said, we're going to have an independent commission that's in charge of redistricting so that we take the politics out of it. Well, when Kathy Hochul wanted to get rid of some Republican seats in the assembly in New York, she went to the commission. They said, no, we don't want to do redistricting now. So she said, well, then to hell with you. We're going to bypass you. And we're going to go back to the assembly. She cheated. She broke the law. Down in Virginia, they broke the law. They didn't follow the procedures of their own constitution, right? At least Texas did it legally. You also had the same problem with commissions out in California. Gavin Newsom went to the commission that was just very recently created through ballot propositions. The California people said, we don't trust Sacramento anymore with this. So we want to have an independent commission. So Newsom starts saying, oh, we got to fight this. Donald Trump's trying to steal elections. We got to do this. And the commission said, yeah, go pound sand. We're not doing it. And so what did he do? He sued them. Then he tried to have a referendum to get people to vote to throw out the commission. They don't like anything that isn't rigged in their favor. And it's very blatant. Harris also said there's a brutality at play on the other side and a ruthlessness, and we need to play to win. What is that, a threat? There's no brutality. There is a ruthlessness because the Republicans in each state that is redistricting seems to be following the law, something Democrats don't know how to do. Now, Republicans immediately pushed back. House Speaker Mike Johnson responded saying, you don't just blow up the system when you lose. Well, they do. Crybabies do. What makes this story interesting is the timing. Now, these proposals from Harris are being discussed after political setbacks, not victories. That raises an obvious question. Are these long-term reforms or are they reactions to losing political battles? That's a debate that could become much larger as we move toward 2028. All right, and now the final story of the video. Trump gets nearly $70 billion. Now, while politicians continue arguing about immigration policy, Donald Trump just secured one of the largest immigration enforcement funding packages in modern history. The legislation provides $38 billion for ICE, $26 billion for Border Patrol, and $5 billion for unexpected expenses. The administration's goal is approximately 1 million deportations per year. Perhaps the biggest part of this story is that the funding stretches years into the future. Instead of constantly returning to Congress for additional funding and being held up by the Democrats every single time, the administration now has long-term financial backing, which is a good thing. Supporters say this finally provides the resources needed to enforce immigration law at scale. Critics argue the approach is just too aggressive. Either way, the debate is now shifting from promises to results. Americans are going to find out whether the administration can actually deliver what it promised. Now, the bigger picture here is, let's take a step back and look at all four stories together. California politicians are debating how much influence government should have over your daily decisions. The Supreme Court is deciding how far immigration enforcement can go before constitutional protections apply. Kamala Harris is openly discussing changes to major American institutions, and Donald Trump now has tens of billions of dollars to carry out one of the largest immigration enforcement efforts in American history. Different stories, different issues, one common theme. Who makes the rules and who enforces them? How much power should government have over everyday American life? Those questions are going to shape some of the biggest political battles over the next few years. No matter where you stand politically, one thing is crystal clear. The debates happening right now are not small policy disagreements. They're fights over the future direction of the country. The good news is that these decisions are still being argued openly, challenged in courts, debated in elections, and ultimately decided by the American people. That's how a constitutional republic is supposed to work. All right, so tell me what you think in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.